bassist for Blues and Roots Ensemble, which is a band dedicated to sharing the music of the great bassist, band leader and composer Charles Mingus, and also an education charity that shares Mingus's music through outreach projects and schools workshops. In this video, we're going to be looking at the Charles Mingus composition E's flat, R's flat 2, picking apart some of the kind of Mingus characteristics, and I'm going to outline some of the different melodies that Mingus uses. I've written up PDFs in concerts in E flat for alto sax, B flat for trumpet, clarinet, tenor sax, and F for French horn. And I've put a link to the Blues and Roots resources pages just in the description here. So ideally we'd be learning these songs by ear, but if you do want to have music to follow along, then there are links to follow that you can get the music for. So the first thing we ought to do is listen to a part of this song. So in this composition, you hear some really obvious and classic Charles Mingus compositional techniques. If you just dip into the middle of the song like we did, it sounds really chaotic, but all Mingus is really doing is layering different blues ideas on top of each other to create this kind of organised chaos that Mingus seems to enjoy in his writing. And this is similar to the tune Gunslinging Bird, which you heard Blues and Roots performing at the beginning of this video. This song follows a classic jazz form, the blues, which is a 12-bar jazz form that Mingus used quite frequently, and he used to alter it in just slightly different ways to kind of impose his own take on it. The first thing we're going to look at is the bass line for this music, which I think everyone should listen to regardless of what parts you kind of decide to play in the end. It's always worth learning the bass line to this music. It's a 12-bar form split into 3 sections of 4. I'm going to play you the kind of classic Mingus bass line to start with, which he uses at the beginning of the tune. I'm going to play it a lot slower than Mingus plays it, and also on bass guitar. And it's this kind of theme in octaves that sounds like this. So you can hear this idea. That's the first 4 bars based on chord 1, and then the next 4 bars is chord 4, going to chord 1, and then the next 4 bars, bars 9 and 10 of the blues, are known as the turnaround, where there's kind of a difference in the harmony underneath. And in Mingus's writing in this tune, he extends the turnaround for an extra bar, so bars 9, 10 and 11 sound like this, before finally resolving to chord 1 on bar 12. So in the bass parts, I've just written this out as crotchets, and I've written out the line that Mingus uses, but I've just put it as crotchets, with 2 crotchets per note. I'm going to play this with a metronome, and in jazz we're always going to try and use the metronome on beats 2 and 4, which is what the hi-hat plays on the drum kit. It's feeling the off beats. I'm just going to play this bass line through twice in its entirety. And if you feel like you know what the bass line is, or if you're able to read it, then do play along with this video. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Top again, so chord 1. Chord 4. To chord 1 again. And then the extended turnaround. So ideally I'd be on a double bass for this, but I'm using a bass guitar as it's easier to demonstrate certain notes as the frets are really obvious. But even then, for bass players or any piano players or trombonists or bass instruments who are going to be playing this bass line in an ensemble, it's quite nice to keep the crotchets as full as possible. And in that I was actually putting a little bit of an emphasis on the second and fourth crotchet of the bar, to make it just sound a bit more groovy. So that's the bass line for this song. Again, it can be downloaded from the resources page of the Blues and Roots Ensemble website, and it's worth just playing along, if you can, up to speed with the record. The bass line will work there, but it's a really solid foundation, and this is what we're going to use as a bass line during the melody. Now, for the melody lines that we're going to stack on top of each other, there's one scale that's used frequently in jazz and pop music that Mingus also uses a lot for his compositions, and that's going to cover the majority of the notes that we need. This is the same scale that we looked at in the Nostalgia in Times Square video that we did with Blues and Roots last summer, and it's the minor pentatonic scale. The minor pentatonic scale. And in this we're in the key of E flat. So I'm going to talk through just how to start going about learning the notes for minor pentatonic scale. Then I'm going to put it into concert, into the key of E flat. But I'm going to attach on this video a screenshot of the minor pentatonic in the different keys, again B flat, E flat and F instruments, and you can just take a kind of screenshot of that so you have the notes out there, because this is the most important scale for this piece. So the minor pentatonic scale in the key of E flat, we're going to start on 1 root of the scale, then we're going to move up a minor third. So it's the root, the first note of the scale, then we're going to find the minor third. And then from there we're going to go up a tone and find the fourth, up a tone and find the fifth of a scale. So the first few notes sound like this. And from there we're going to find the flattened seventh, and then the octave, the root octave. So the whole minor pentatonic scale goes root, minor third, fourth, fifth, flat seventh, 8, and then come back down, 7, 5, 4, flat 3, 1. So here's the minor pentatonic scale written out in E flat concert, but adjusted for different instruments as well, so you can have a look at it there. And for me, you can see I'm not playing right at the bottom of my instrument, I'm playing somewhere mid-range of my instrument, because for this piece we're going to need to use a couple of notes. So the flat 7 and the fifth below for Mingus's melodies. So it's worth just finding somewhere in the mid-range of your instrument and walking up. You can walk up with me now if you like. 1, minor third, fourth, fifth, flat 7, 8, flat 7, fifth, fourth, minor third, 1, and then going down further, flat 7, fifth, fourth, minor third, and then up to the 1. And then you can, if you want to, like we did in the Nostalgia in Times Square video, just put a metronome on 2 and 4 and just noodle around that scale. You can do it forever, just get used to playing around that scale, get used to playing up and down that scale. So, with the metronome on 2 and 4 on the hi-hat, it's one of our first jazz characteristics that's really important, feeling those offbeats and having a walking bass line underneath. The second characteristic of jazz, which is really emphasised in Mingus's music, is his swung quavers, having that triplet feel all the way through his quavers. And now we're going to look at part 1 for E's flat, R's flat 2, and it's going to be based on those triplet quavers. I'm just going to play the whole thing first, and then we're going to break it down. So that's the whole of part one. This is the most complicated part of the tune, but it's also the main tune that you hear first. So, if you're listening closely, hopefully you've picked out a few things. First of all, it really follows the form of the blues and of Mingus's bass line. We have chord 1, then we move up to chord 4, we play the same pattern up on chord 4. Back to chord 1. And this slightly modified version, I use Mingus's long notes to play over the turnaround. 2, 3, 4, 1. And then this minor pentatonic lick to come down. So, that's the first part. And we're just going to talk about this first part and how to break it down and how to learn it. I'm not going to go into too much detail here because there is sheet music available, but I think it's important to learn kind of compositionally how it's written. So it starts on an upbeat to bar 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1. And we're just going to go up the pentatonic scale. 1, 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 1, 4, 3, 1, 4, 5. So it's using all notes of the minor pentatonic scale. 1, 3, minor 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 1, 5, 3, 1. So those are the notes, just using 1, minor 3, 4, 5 of the pentatonic scale, minor pentatonic scale that is. And it's a bit of a tongue twister to play. So what I tend to do is break Mingus's melodies down into kind of half melodies. That's 4, minor third, 1, 4, 3, 1, 4, 5, and just do things like that. And then add the beginning on. If you want to, I'd pause the video there and just work on that first lick. Now, if you're doing an extended modified version of this, you can actually play this pattern 3 times before the turnaround, or twice before the turnaround actually. And again if you want. And then the turnaround, the long note on 5, and then down the scale. That's the top 8. Root 5, 4, 3, 1, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So that's the modified version. If you want to go up to chord 4, it's the same pattern as your E flat minor pentatonic, but up a 4th, but starting on the A flat, so starting on the 4th above. And that's the best way to pick it up. So in concert, if we're in the key of now A flat minor, 1, 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 1, 4, 3, 1, 4, 5. We've now just moved the whole pattern up a 4th. Again, maybe use the sheet music if this is tough, but it's a nice way of learning it. You just move the whole pattern up a 4th for those 2 bars, and then you move back down again. I'm going to play the whole thing through again, just so you can hear how it sounds. I'm going to do it with the metronome this time. One, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Up. Back to the original. Hold note 5. 5. So that's the whole pattern all the way through. If you think you've got that pattern down, I'm now going to play the whole of the bass line through that we learned earlier, and I'm going to sing part 1 over the top. So if you're confident with part 1, I'm going to sing it over the top and you can play along. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Ba-do ba-do ba-da ba-da-da ba-do-da ba-do ba-da ba-da ba-ba-da ba-do ba-da ba-da ba-dee-da ba-da-da ba-do ba-do ba-da ba-dee-ba-da It's actually quite a good exercise in itself. But if you're feeling confident playing that pattern, then you can play that pattern over the top of this bass line. Or I played the bass line twice at the very beginning as well, so you can scroll back and play this pattern over the top. If you're in a small band setting and it's just one horn and a rhythm section, then actually that works really well as a melody. I really like how this long note fits over the turnaround. That's a really nice ending to this tune. So, moving on to part 2. Part 2 is a little 1-bar repeated fragment that goes all the way through until you get to the turnaround, until you get to bar 9. And it sounds like this. So in that we're starting on the minor third, and then we're going to the root to 1, and then we're actually putting the second note in the scale 2 up to it. So we're going to play that essentially 8 times. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then at the end we find our starter note but up an octave, our root, and we go down chromatically. So the octave, then the major 7th, the flat 7th, the major 6th, the flat 6th, but holding that note or the sharp 5, and then back onto the 5th to resolve it. So I'll play the whole thing through with the metronome. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Hold the note. 2, 3, 4. So those are the first 2 parts. If you're playing in a quintet and you've got 2 frontline instruments, you can play those 2 parts really nicely together, and that will work. Our third part is a bit simpler because it's just one 4-bar phrase over and over again. So this phrase starts on the 4th beat of the bar. So ba-da-ba-dum bum ba-da-ba-doo-da ba-da-ba-da-bo-bo-da-bo-doo-da ba-da-ba-da-bo-bo-da-bo-doo-da. So this starts on the root of the minor pentatonic scale. We're going back to our minor pentatonic scale. So we're going to go root 4, minor 3, root 1, 4, minor 3, root. Then down to the 5th below, that's why we needed the 5th below. And then the 7th below. And then root 5, 7, root. So 1, 4, 3, 1, 5, 7, 1, 5, 7, 1. And the rhythm goes 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. So there we have parts 1, parts 2 and parts 3 slightly modified along with the bass line for E's flat, R's flat 2. As I said earlier, some extension exercises with this would be to listen out, because there are about 2 or 3 more parts that Mingus adds on top of it to kind of really add to the kind of chaos that's going on. There are a couple of things that I didn't include. There's a lovely line over the turnaround that goes which is really good. It seemed like it would be too much to explain in one video, but it's a really great line that outlines these changes. And it's worth listening out for on the record. I think on Blues and Roots on the record, the solo section starts with Mingus outlining these changes. And then he goes into a full E-flat blues. And the next video in the series will be just talking about how to solo over this tune and some different approaches to take to solo over this tune. If you like the video, great, give it a like, all the usual YouTube stuff. Also, feel free to suggest other Mingus tunes to do. We've done Nostalgia in Times Square and we've done E's flats, R's flats too so far. And do check out the band Insta page. There's some videos from recent gigs up, as well as other education resources. So thanks very much.